Excuse me?
Hey!
Hang on a second. See that?
Yes, that's all the hate you received from the last review.
Know what that means?
Well, according to them, it means you suck and should stop.
No! It means I'm close to passing this test.
Spazz, I'm really beginning to wonder whether these tests are doing anything at all.
Well, yeah, otherwise the story wouldn't be progressing.
No, tests like this are designed to administer pain and suffering in the worst of ways. And so far, you don't seem to be affected by any of them.
So what you're saying is...
What I'm saying is that it doesn't make any sense.
Here we go.
Just think about it. There's no reason for him to be putting your neck and what very little of a reputation you may have on the line. Especially if this is to help him find his ending.
Then what do I do now? Nothing? Look, I don't know if this has occurred to you, but I made a promise, and I've come through on a little more than half of it. I can't stop now.
Must be great, huh? Not knowing anything. Something I've always envied about you.
Okay. We're going to have a little chat. And you're going to tell me everything. Right now.
You never listened to me before. Why start now?
Go to hell.
Sooner than you think.
You have no idea how long it took me to write that scene. Look, don't worry about Charlie. He'll be fine. Trust me. Yeah, but look, whether or not this is affecting you or not, you're still helping me. That's all that matters, right? Alright then, go do your review. Hello and welcome back to the second and final part of my look at the Channel Awesome 3. And I have indeed saved the greatest for last. Oh yes. If there's one mistake that Marshall Horror and Robert Million made, it was choosing him first. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. The Nostalgia Critic. Now, I do realize that it would be a bit pointless to tell you his backstory, given that he is one of the most beloved of internet personalities out there today. But I will anyway. And with this short, aptly themed segment.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to.
But as with Spoonie, I consider his older work to be some of his greatest. Now, he sucks. Okay, maybe sucks is too harsh a term, but you gotta admit, he's not as good as he once was. And that's really a shame, because he's really funny, charismatic, and a pretty decent filmmaker. On top of that, his abilities as a critic aren't all that bad. Which is why I decided to make this an investigative discussion more than an actual review. Even though I'm going to be giving him a rating at the end, thus making this a moot point. And you know what, just go. So just like any good detective, we'll go through all the W's. We already know who this entails, what's going on, where is irrelevant given websites aren't physical locations, so we'll start with when. At what point did his slow or possible sudden drop in quality occur? Well, as I have been following his work for nearly the past 3 years, I've come up with a few conclusions. The first being around the 1-year anniversary brawl.
let me tell you, as a fan who had just become accustomed to everyone's videos at the time, watching this blew my mind. But you could tell that most of his time and effort went into not only editing this, but writing it as well, and it more than shows in the reviews before and following it, such as Red Sonja, TMNT, Short Circuit 1 and 2, yes, even his team up with AVGN. The second is actually the one that not necessarily made the Channel Awesome 3 who they are today, but it certainly solidified their positions. That's right, the Alone in the Dark review.
Now, personally, I cannot stand this review. It just wasn't what I was expecting from what they boasted as a super special top secret review. But the third probably seems the most obvious and one that's applicable to newer viewers, and that is Kickassia.
Kickassia, Kickassia, critic he built for us. Yes, I bought into the hype. But having actually watched it again very recently, it's really not that bad until the ending. Seriously, go back and watch its ending, and then go watch the brawls. They're the same exact thing.
But not to go off topic too much, this is where most people are split into two schools of thought. On one side, this is the greatest thing Channel Awesome has ever put out, and on the other, this is where the entire site hit rock bottom. And here's my theory on that. Going back to the brawl again, seeing nearly everyone in the same room was something we as fans never thought would be possible. I don't even think it crossed our minds. But by the time Kickassia had come around, most of that uniquity had been lost with all the other crossovers that had happened, making it, in some people's opinions, nothing special to begin with.
Yet, this isn't where I think you started to go downhill. No. And after all of these years, I'm finally ready to admit...
Stop eating my sesame cake!
Yes, that happened.
When the Congo review went up, I decided to make a video of my negative reactions to it, and what came of it was a tidal wave of equally hateful comments. So much so that I took the coward's way out and ended up pulling all three parts of it.
There. But now that we have Win covered, let us now discuss why. And this is where the fun begins, because like before, I have multiple reasons. Starting with...
the fans. As I said way back in my discussion of AVGN and Irate Gamer, it was the loyal followers of the two blowing it up to warlike proportions, proving to the world how much of a hindrance they can be. Here, they basically hold the poor guy hostage with their impossibly high demands and expectations that he almost has no choice but to cave into them. And even if he does and makes the slightest mistake, or even throws a curveball by trying something different, you would think he insulted their dead or dying mothers by how infuriated they become.
Now, don't get me wrong, not all fans are this clinically insane. Most of the time they play it fairly casually and leave comments whenever they feel it necessary.
Which is why I love his top 11 screw-ups list, because not only do I respect him for admitting to his mistakes, or that it gave birth to the character of Douchey McNitpick, the ultimate fanboy,
but the very title card of the second one has what I believe to be a spot-on depiction of what he might think of them. Of course he wouldn't make these mistakes if he just gave in to...
You know I'm tired. I'm so tired.
Now, I want to go on record here. I have nothing but the utmost respect for anybody that can pull off one video a week. Because again, I've tried it. It's not easy. But with him, you can tell it's been wearing on him a lot.
Just look at any one of his videos in the areas I mentioned before, and I guarantee that you will hear any one joke anywhere between 3 to 7 times, including such classics as...
And who could forget...
Timing!
I hate that ghost.
Now, I'm not bashing his skills as an animator. I have seen worse. But because of the weekly schedule, he uses these and other gags way too much without even realizing that.
The next result isn't too much of an issue, but it bears pointing out nonetheless. And that is resorting to include a massive amount of cameos. Or as I like to call it, a cameo overload.
And again, I'm not criminalizing them altogether. I'm just of the mind that they should serve some purpose outside of shoehorning them in there for the sake of it, or to make even more lame gags, especially when you're already comically brilliant to begin with.
But probably the biggest casualty is the nostalgia well running drier and drier with each passing week.
On a long enough timeline, the survival rate for anything drops to absolute zero. The same theory applies even here. The time will come when he has no more quote-unquote nostalgic material to cover, and that might be sooner than you think. Sure, everyone has their own definition for nostalgia, and he could start burning through what the 2Ks had to offer at any time. But even then he'll run into the same problem, all because of the rate at which he is going.
Though, in all fairness, there have been a few diamonds in the rough that have been fairly entertaining, but still not so much on the memorable side.
So with this, the diagnosis is pretty clear. If he just took a break, there is no doubt that the overall quality would improve tenfold at least. Look what it did for the nerd.
Yet there is one more reason I have to offer, and it is... yeah, I'll admit it. Though I'm not the direct cause, but there have been a few factors that led me to noticing the slip-up to begin with.
For starters, I share something very common with all of you in that
I am only human.
And what I perceive to be funny has definitely changed since I first discovered his work. Not to mention, seeing basically the same thing every week did get pretty boring. And yes, jealousy has played a very small role as well.
But in the immortal words of Willy Wonka, if you want to view paradise, simply look around and you will. In other words, I found my entertainment elsewhere.
Seriously, in the past year and a half, there have been so many amazing, talented, and quite frankly, far more entertaining reviewers that have come out of the woodwork. And if it weren't for some dopey kid in Australia asking me to join his club, I wouldn't have even noticed.
But despite all my criticisms, those shows, my show, this wonderful community wouldn't exist if it weren't for him. I mean, love him or hate him, he's inspired us all on some level.
Sorry, everybody. I'm still recovering from my last review.
It's hard to believe that there are entire generations out there that are going to grow up oblivious to the TV shows and movies of our childhoods.
Well, I was finally able to get to the video store and pick up that video that I was going to get last time, and then that whole zombie outbreak happened, and we all saw how that ended. Well...
I love Bad Boys. That movie go hard, real hard. It goes so hard it makes you want to shoot somebody. Ah! Shit!
Stand. One shell fall. Guess you boys got me surrounded. Wish I would have brought some backup. But wait, I did.
So I bet you want to know more about this mysterious sculptor. And what a better way to do that than with a movie. Directed by Mel Gibson. Wait.
Now, you have 2 minutes to show me human female nudity, lesbianism, killing, or anything that'll put me in a good enough mood that I don't kill this minion. Okay?
What's that? Stop it! Was that necessary? Yes. I hate this movie. I love it.
There's too much nerd rage in Geekland these days, and I'm here to help people remember the awesome stuff.
To celebrate, I'm going to horribly torment myself with an issue of Tarot, which is Black Rose.
You can't spell decade without DCA, or ECD, or CAE for that matter. It's all discussed in my 2-week seminar, How to Spell Things with Other Things, next month at the Madison Radisson. But
You know all those high school dramas about those attractive, popular rich kids? You know, shows like Gossip Girl, The OC, Skins, Popular, Laguna Beach, The Hills, Dawson's Creek. Some of those are actually really good shows.
Hang on, I can do this better. Hang on. Alright, you bozos, listen up. I'm gonna tell you about the greatest damn anime ever made. You think I'm making this up? Just who the hell do you...
Five out of 5.
Scoozy?
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this insane little experiment as much as I have. But I declare this chapter of Insert Title Here Reviews to be closed. So until next time, I'm Spazz Master. Later.
Hey, look at the things on screen. Shiny buttons. You want to click them? Come on, I know you want to click them. Come on, click them. Click them. Click them. Please. Please click them. Okay, bye.